Hello and welcome to our big match build-up show as Saints prepare to take another trip to Merseyside this weekend and a visit to Anfield and currently unbeaten Liverpool in the Premier League. Now, Merseyside has not been a happy hunting ground recently for Saints, and we were made to wait just that little longer to return to Premier League action last weekend with Monday Night Football. But it was a Desmond that denied Saints of perhaps an important victory against Brighton, but it does seem another case of deja vu is creeping in once again. But on to this week's show, and ahead of Liverpool, I speak to one half of the dynamic duo from the Saints FC podcast, and we discuss the Brighton game and try to discuss how we can keep Liverpool's front three quiet.
No one can keep those three quiet, and then even at the back, they've got Virgil, for Christ's sake. So even if you get a sniff, you come up against who I believe is the world's best centre back. They've got an incredible team, and if you get past him, you still got to beat Alisson, one of the world's best goalkeepers. It's going to be really hard for Saints. If we were to get a point at Anfield, that would be an incredible result, and I think would restore a lot of belief to the team.
And I also get the chance to speak to our opposition this week in the form of the Redmen TV, and I ask why this is the first game of the season that is not televised for Liverpool. It seems like 3 p.m. kickoffs are unfashionable.
Why aren't we on telly for this one? We're the best team in the country, you know what I mean? We're the most exciting team in the country to watch. Surely Sky or BT or whoever it is would want us on every week. Maybe they know how these games against Southampton go. We've struggled over the last few years against you, really, certainly when Claude Puel was there.
So do let us know how you're watching or listening. The episode is now available to download on most audio platforms in the links below and in the card above my head if you're watching on YouTube. Join us later on for your top tips on away pubs near Anfield and some alternative travel arrangements this weekend and also next weekend to Wolverhampton. So feel free to leave a comment and join the conversation on anything we discuss in this week's show. Do leave us your thoughts and predictions, but now it's time to kick off our build-up for Liverpool versus Southampton. Quick disclaimer though, we did record this before Liverpool beat Paris Saint-Germain in the last minute of the Champions League on Tuesday night, and ironically we couldn't foresee Firmino's recovery from an eye injury and eventually to go on and score that winner on Tuesday. So welcome along to our first half of our big match build-up show as we approach Liverpool and another trip to Merseyside this Saturday. Midweek matches mess up my body clock big time, and both of us before we come on air, we're rubbing our eyes. We're going to power through this. I have to stay up and edit for you guys this week, but I'm delighted once again to be joined by one half of the dynamic duo from the Saints FC podcast. Tom, it's good to see you again. How you doing?
I've been better, Freddie. Been better, but how are you doing?
I'm all right. We've just briefly talked about the Brighton game, but it is a case of the inevitability, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the sickener. It's coming. And it's almost like you're praying that they screw it up. But the problem is the teams in the Premier League, they've got good quality players. And if you present them with a chance, they are going to score. And last night was just the horrible inevitability of it all. I mean, I almost thought from the moment they got that free kick, you just knew that, that they were going to score and get straight back in it. And that's what they did.
But it's really unfortunate for Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, busted it along again, sort of Monday night, as well as he did sort of so well against Crystal Palace a few weekends before. And we talk about his goal, but it's almost sort of masked by the same old story for Saints, failing to defend the lead, sloppy goals to concede, a free header once again, a case of deja vu. I mean, how can Saints find a way out of this mentality?
You've got to hope psychologically they're not starting to, if they're not already, they're probably starting to really worry about how they're going to get results now. The Crystal Palace game, which we were at, was fantastic. They seem to they play with abandon, but more freedom away from St Mary's. St Mary's has almost become, the opposite to what the Dell was. St Mary's has now become a bit of an albatross around our neck. And I think that, if you look at our record, is it 2 wins this calendar year at home? It's terrible. And, I feel for them because they played so well in the first half. They were probably the best we've seen from Saints in 2 or 3 years, snapping into every tackle, converting the play, moving the ball around beautiful. I think players like Redmond, you mentioned Højbjerg, Lamina, the fullbacks, all had really, really strong first halves. And you do wonder, it's almost like that touch of they don't believe in themselves, because instead of just going about Brighton and setting about them again in the second half, they sat back and you could see within seconds Brighton's tails were up. They knew Saints were there for the taking, and we got lucky almost with the penalty, but the penalty was an anomaly. It didn't really interrupt the flow of the game, which in the second half was all Brighton.
Yeah, absolutely. For the first 45 minutes, you thought we should go on to win this game quite comfortably. But like you say, complacency perhaps creeping in once again for Saints.
It's weird, like it's basic stuff, isn't it? Does your head in. If you watch that first goal last night, we play a really high line. Vestergaard and the team play a really high line, but McCarthy doesn't come for it. Now, I don't know much about football, but you've either got to do one or two things in that situation, haven't you? You've either got to have a goalkeeper that comes out and commands that box and gets that ball away, whether by punching it or catching it, or you've got to play a line, back towards the goal line so you can dig it out. It was so obvious what they were going to do, and you just don't understand how Saints, who are a pretty big, strong, physical team, seem to get that so wrong. It's almost Sunday League stuff.
It's almost sort of a case that's been repeated across all the forums, across all the comments and most of the pages. We're lacking a leader on the pitch, but one player I'm particularly impressed by is Pierre Højbjerg once again. We seem to talk about him every single week, whether he's getting sent off, a wonderful goal, a winning goal, or an absolute wonder goal last night. I think his assessment after the game in his post-match interview was smart and honest. And
it's, let's not forget, it's not the first time that Saints media team have put Pierre-Emile Højbjerg up for an important post-match interview. I can't remember, was it last season? I think maybe it was the Chelsea game. I can't remember, but he was the one to sort of front up and say, we've got real problems. We need to be better. We need to be more professional. And he did it again last night. So, he is a leader. I don't see, I think Bertrand is a good captain, but if we can keep in the Premier League, which sounds like a stupid thing to say after 5 games, if we can keep Pierre-Emile, he seems like a captain. He seems to galvanise players around him. Last night he snapped into every tackle. Every piece of control was flawless. He was always being positive with the ball. He seems like a first choice. He's got to be first choice almost on the team sheet now, along with Danny Ings.
Yeah, 100%. And, it's a shame that his goal, I think it's got to be an early goal of the season contender.
Yeah, I mean, we scored 2 really good goals already this season, I think. But unfortunately, that's not what the game's going to be remembered for. It's going to be remembered for another capitulation at home. If you look like Brighton, their away record is awful, absolutely awful. They've scored, I think, only 2 goals or 3 times away from home. They've never gone on to win, and they've got something like 4 draws in something like 23 Premier League games away from home. They were there for the taking.
And ultimately, like you say, the game will be remembered from a position lost from a winning position again, and another free header. We must be top of the league from points lost from winning positions.
Well, I think it's 13 points now from 13 Mark Hughes games that we've lost from winning positions. It's 5, is it already? This season is really, really worrying. I think it's mental. It has to be a mental problem the players have. They don't seem, even with the addition of Vestergaard, they don't seem to really believe in themselves when they go in front. And it's a real shame, because if you look at some of the performances last night, I think you could argue probably Lamina had probably his best game probably since the Palace game last year. Højbjerg definitely I think had his best game in a Saints shirt. Redmond was fantastic. This is the thing. There are lots of positives. Redmond last night looked like a world beater, and I think with Gareth Southgate in the audience, players like Redmond and Danny Ings and Bertrand are going to be knocking on the door of that England squad. But the problem we've got is we've had 5 games now. Of those 5 games, you would think we probably could have won 4. It sounds silly. We're never going to get anything at Everton away, but we could beat Burnley at home, should beat Brighton at home, and we could beat Leicester at home. So, those are the other 3 games. we should be now have accumulated points so that we've got this horrible run of games coming up. We've got Liverpool, which we're going to talk about, Wolves, I think Man City are in the mix, Bournemouth away, which you're not guaranteed anything at all,
and Chelsea.
And the problem we've got is if we lose those games, all of a sudden we're in deep doggy doo-doo as we head into Christmas. And we've played games that we've got to pick up points, and we don't seem to have learnt from the last 2 years at all. And that's the worrying thing. We're 3 managers in, sort of half a different team really, but this sort of jinx is sort of still hanging over us.
Yeah, and it's all about belief. And I think based on some of the interviews and people that I speak to yesterday, we still believe that we will be okay. But, at the other end of the spectrum, I think it's about time we do get onto Liverpool. They're tied at the top of the current Premier League with 5 wins out of 5. They're front three. Everybody talks about them, of course. But how can we keep those 3 quiet?
Well, no one can. I don't know what the score is in the PSG game tonight, but I'll be amazed if Liverpool don't score at least one. No one can keep those 3 quiet. And then even at the back, they've got Virgil, for Christ's sake. So even if you get a sniff, you come up against who I believe is the world's best centre back. They've got an incredible team, and if you get past him, you still got to beat Alisson. One of the world's best goalkeepers. It's going to be really hard for Saints. If we were to get a point at Anfield, that would be an incredible result, and I think would restore a lot of belief to the team, because we're not, we lost a couple of games. I think certainly against Leicester, we were very unfortunate to lose. We've not had a terrible start to the season, but, it's just worrying that, mentally, where are the players like today when they go into training this afternoon? Like, what were they thinking? What's the atmosphere? Is it starting to get a bit poisonous? And you do wonder. I sort of raised a few points on Twitter earlier, and it's one of the main things I have real concerns about is Shane Long. I love Shane Long. I think he's brilliant. I wish he would play almost every game. But if you look at our first 11 last night, we probably only had 20 first team goals for Saints in that first 11. There's no goals in that team. Having said that, I don't know what the answer is. If I knew, I'd be a manager, and I don't think Mark Hughes knows what the answer is either.
Yeah, well, last time we did visit Liverpool, we were schooled by Salah, and like you say, Van Dijk is now in the team. But last time we went there, he wasn't interested. He was, looking elsewhere. But Van Dijk, like you say, he's showing all the qualities that we knew he was capable of, and so far they've only conceded 2 goals in the league.
He looks like the player that we all knew he was, and he was for Saints until he lost his way a bit. I think we're going to really show. I don't want us to, but chapeau to the Saints fans who make that journey, because we could be on a hiding to nothing on Saturday, and fair play to anyone who does it. But stranger things happen in football. They've got to not win a game eventually, so you never know.
Yeah, so I pick up on that point. Strange things have happened. So last season, I actually read in this week's programme against Brighton, Danny Ings and Salah's got a little goal scoring bet on. So Salah outscored Ings by 43 goals last season. So currently, Danny Ings is outscoring Mo Salah. Another goal on Merseyside would do nicely this weekend.
Yeah, he seems to have given Saints a real something extra, a real bit of quality up front. I do think he's galvanised the fans. I think he's galvanised other players as well. If you look at Redmond, I feel sorry for Redmond. He just needs a goal, doesn't he? I think something goes in for Redmond, no matter how it goes in, and I think you'll see him transformed even more. We've got players that can hurt people, definitely, with Danny Ings and Redmond, and we've got an Elyounoussi looks like a very good player, but even him, arguably, Elyounoussi should have scored against Palace. He should have scored last night. You do wonder about the belief of these players and whether they can, if they can even think they can go to Liverpool and get any sort of result.
So those of you that haven't read the programme from Brighton, the reward for Danny Ings apparently will be half of Egypt. If Mo Salah outscores Danny Ings, then he just buys him a coffee. So if we do go down at Merseyside, I think we'll be sick of the sight of it once again. And, another game to look forward to in a few weeks' time. Well, I'm not so much looking forward to another trip to Goodison Park in a few weeks.
Yeah, Saints do not have a good record, do we, on Merseyside? It's just not been a happy hunting ground. I don't think, to be fair, this season, I don't think Anfield is going to be a happy hunting ground for anyone. probably. I think they're strong favourites to, along with Man City, to win the league. But like I say, you never know. If Mark Hughes can keep the atmosphere strong, if he can keep the mentality strong, if he can get Lamina and Højbjerg snapping into tackles, roughing people up a little bit, Danny Ings is on good form. Shane Long, last time we did well at Anfield was Shane Long. So, why not? Let's have another one.
Yeah, and Shane Long will be adored by, Saints forever for that goal in the semi-final. So all of that being said then, Tom, belief is what we need to put into the mentality of the players. What do you think the score will be on Saturday?
Well, my heart says I think we'll do 1-1. My head can't. I'm sorry, Saints fans, but I can't see us getting anything. And I think, if we can get out there without being absolutely spannered and with our heads held high, then I actually think, without, conceding 4 or 5 goals, then that could be a decent result, like in terms of the mentality for the team going on into some difficult games.
Absolutely. Tom, thanks for joining once again, and I'm sure we can catch up on the next episode of the Saints FC podcast.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Freddie.
So a big thanks to Tom for coming over from the Saints FC podcast this week. Be sure to check out their review show on Monday and hopefully to discuss a positive outcome from Anfield. But I do think it is fair to say we've set our expectations quite low this weekend. A visit to Liverpool, though, wouldn't be complete without popping into a boozer or two, and they have plenty to offer. Now, if you're planning a drink around the ground, the closest pub to the away end is the Arkles pub on the corner of Anfield Road, but be aware this place does fill up quite quickly with home fans and away fans, and often spilling out onto the street. If you want to take a little walk down the road, down Anfield Road, you'll also find the Flatiron pub, who will accept home and away fans, but also this place can get quite cosy. It is a quirky little pub based in the Flatiron building in New York. So 2 pubs to consider there if you're out of ideas near the away end. But if you are staying in the city centre, then there's plenty of pubs to offer for everybody. But if you are also looking for alternative travel to Liverpool to get there and back in a day, then why not consider our friends, our coach travel providers, Southampton Away Travel. Now, the coach ticket is less than £30 with 14 available pickup locations, inclusive free food and drink, 4G Wi-Fi and onboard entertainment, and that's just not referring to Keith on Coach 1. There are limited seats available to Liverpool, but why not consider the coach for the weekend after and a trip to Wolverhampton? All of the above is available, and the coach ticket is £24 or less than £24, and head over to southamptonawaytravel.co.uk to find out more. But I think it is now time to speak to our opposition in the second half of our match build-up show, and this week I catch up with the Redmen TV. So welcome along to our second half of our match build-up show and the chance to speak to our opposition. Another trip to Merseyside, this time the Red Half. And joining us this week from the Redmen studios, Chris from the Redmen TV. And first of all, mate, before we get into it, a big congratulations on 300,000 subscribers.
Oh, thanks, mate. Yeah, it's, cheers, appreciate that. It's mental, to be honest with you. I can't believe it. Like, it's 8 years of just talking about Liverpool, and it's mental. Like, it's crazy that it's got so big, to be honest.
Shall we talk about last night's football then? Another sort of historic European night. You're still grinning from ear to ear. 3-2, another spectacular for the TVs. I've seen so many clips. I mean, how's your voice after all that?
It's not so bad, you know. Normally it's completely wrecked, but it doesn't feel like it is yet, which is strange. I was in the car, we were singing all game. Obviously, it was loud. It was really, really loud. But it's funny hearing some of the fallout, saying all you could hear was the PSG fans. It's mad. I didn't hear them once. I could see them. And I could see that they were singing, and I could see that they were good fans, and they really were. But I didn't hear them. We were just as loud, I felt anyway.
Back to domestic matches, though. Still unbeaten in the league. 5 out of 5. Only conceding twice, albeit sort of a late consolation at Wembley. And a kamikaze Cruyff turn from Alisson leading to the Leicester goal. I mean, how's it been so far?
been great, mate. It's been absolutely brilliant, and I think part of that's down to the fact that Liverpool aren't playing very well. We played well last night against PSG. That was our best performance of the season, but turning over one of your rivals for a top 4 place in Tottenham Hotspur at their ground without really clicking, without really hitting top gear. I think if we were sat there watching a Manchester City side as a Liverpool fan doing that to Tottenham, I'd say, oh, that just shows you how good they are, because they haven't actually played as well as they can do, and they've turned over one of their rivals, and that's what Liverpool have been doing. There's a newfound steel to this defence thanks to your former player Virgil van Dijk. He's lifted everybody in a defensive sense. Like it's chalk and cheese what's happened to Liverpool defensively over the last 6 months.
Yeah, and we knew all the qualities that he was going to take to Anfield as well. But the first 5 games, all on TV, do you think the Reds were playing up for that? I mean, this is the first game this season you're not on TV coverage. I mean, how does that feel?
I didn't even know until you told me, mate. I genuinely didn't have a clue. Why aren't we on telly for this one? We're the best team in the country, you know what I mean? We're the most exciting team in the country to watch. Surely Sky or BT or whoever it is would want us on every week. Maybe they know how these games against Southampton go. You know, we've struggled over the last few years against you, really, certainly when Claude Puel was there. You know, his record against Klopp was, I think it was something like 2 wins and two draws for Puel's favour. And it's not until he moved to Leicester where Klopp's picked up his only 2 victories against him. You know, Southampton know how to set up against this Liverpool side. They know what makes it difficult for this Liverpool side, crunching that space in the centre of the park and stuff. Kind of thankful that Danny Ings isn't going to be playing, to be honest with you, because he looks like he's in a bit of form. So
we all know about your front 3. Everybody knows about Firmino, Salah, Mane. The roles have been reversed somewhat so far this season. Salah's not quite firing on all cylinders just yet. Mane's a top scorer, and there is an interview in this week's programme against Brighton that Danny Ings has got a little bet with Salah this season to outscore him.
Yeah, good luck with that one. Mainly from the fact that, you know, we create more chances than you guys, and I think we will score more goals than you guys. I rate Danny Ings, I really do. I think I love what he brought to the football club. I love that endeavour that he shows, that aggressiveness, that willingness to get in and put pressure on opposing defenders. And he's got a good strike rate as well. He had 2 massive injuries at us, and he wasn't getting in our front 3. And I totally understand why Klopp's let him go, because he's a humanist first and foremost. And Danny Ings gave us all. You know, Danny Ings probably wanted to go January last season, and Klopp said, we'll use you between now and the end of the season. And he didn't get those opportunities. So I think everybody at Liverpool is really happy that he's doing well there, because we all knew that he could do well, and he's a good striker, and he wasn't getting the opportunities that maybe his work rate deserved. But flip side, Salah, yeah, he hasn't quite looked the player of last season yet. Obviously, there's still that World Cup hangover that people are talking about right now. He came back early off an injury, which seems to have been forgotten somewhat. You know, for all the talk of his shoulder injury in the Champions League final, no one's talking about him rushing himself back to try and help Egypt out in the World Cup, and that might have affected his form in this early part of the season. He's still a danger. He's still getting into good positions. He's just not as clinical as he was last season, but thankfully teams are worried about Mo Salah, and that kind of frees up the other 2 lads to go and do their business a little bit more.
Yeah, and last season when we did visit Anfield, Salah gave us a lesson on how to score goals. He schooled us in the afternoon, and it was a miserable trip there and a miserable trip back. I remember it being grey and overcast, and I think it was raining a little bit. But what sort of team do you think will be playing on Saturday? There were 2 changes from last weekend in the Champions League tie last night. There was 2 changes in Henderson and Sturridge for Keita and Firmino.
It wouldn't surprise me to go with a very, very similar side. Again, I think Klopp will probably be looking at the Chelsea game in midweek following the Southampton game in the Carabao Cup to make his changes. I've got a feeling that Klopp's going to go as strong as he possibly can. I think Keita probably does come back into the side. Maybe we might rest someone like a James Milner or something, 32 years old, just played 2 games in the last few days for us. Maybe he'd be the guy to come out. He's played every game so far this season. As far as Bobby Firmino goes, I'd imagine that he's going to go back into the side, and we might see the likes of Sturridge again on Wednesday against Chelsea.
I think it's fair to say that if we have a spirited performance and keep the scoreline down, anything sort of 1 goal conceded or less, we'd be absolutely delighted with that. and perhaps a draw would help us kick on. I mean, how are you feeling with the Mark Hughes visiting Anfield? What's your prediction for Saturday, mate?
Listen, the way that Liverpool are playing at the moment and the confidence that they've carried over from hopefully the Champions League game and stuff, we should turn up and win the game of football, and that's what Liverpool have become good at over the last few weeks, certainly, but also towards the back end of last season. There's a real fight in this squad now that, you know, they can come from goal behind, they can win it in games of football in many different ways, and that's what we're still seeing. We're still seeing this side evolve, and it's not hit its peak yet. But again, those games against Southampton have always tended to be quite difficult over the last few seasons. So I think Liverpool will win. Old Liverpool would have drawn or lost this game. So it's actually a really good measure for where we are as a side right now, because Liverpool of 18 months ago or last year would have drawn after two big results against Tottenham and PSG. So we'll find out where we are by the results against Southampton, I think.
And by the end of the season, is this going to be your year?
It's a difficult one for me because I think my brain still says Manchester City have got the best squad, they've got the best players, they've probably got the best manager. Klopp's probably the best manager for us. And he's, you know, it's very, very close between the two of them, but you can't argue with Guardiola's trophies. But there's a genuine belief that Liverpool can win the league. And I've always had hope that Liverpool can win the league, Freddie. Blind optimism, some people might call it, or delusion, whatever. I call it hope. I really do believe that we can. We just need a few things to go in our favour.
Okay, great stuff. And Chris, big thanks for joining us, and I'm sure we'll catch up again soon.
Yeah, cheers, Fred.
A big thanks once again to Chris from the Redmen TV for speaking to us this week. Be sure to head over to their channel for all your Liverpool needs. They're doing a wonderful job and recently hit 300,000 subscribers. A great job all round. But that does pretty much call full time on this week's show. Remember to leave us your comments, any thoughts, predictions, expectations, whether it's high or low this week with a visit to Anfield. A big thanks for watching and listening. We'll catch up with you at Anfield. Come on, you Saints.